Chapter 5. James Thomas. On the second day of school, James Thomas Dalton ran in late. JT, which was what everyone called him, was tall and blond and played football too. He had blue eyes and a dimple on his chin, and his nose was just slightly off-center. I thought it made him look even more handsome. Like half the girls in my class, I had a crush on him. Not that anyone else knew. I hadn't even told Judy. It was embarrassing to like someone who didn't know his times tables. But JT had flair. He had confidence, and that and really long eyelashes. My brother's car had a flat, JT announced to everyone, and no one in particular. I had to help change it. Miss Taylor nodded in sympathy. I'll excuse you this time. JT grinned at her, and his smile blinded us all to the fact that there wasn't a bit of grease or dirt on his clothes. The only open seat was next to me, so he strode over and threw his bag down. Hi, Marley, he said. Of course he knew my name. We'd been going to school together since we were 6, but it still gave me a thrill. I smiled back and tried to move my bag out of his way, but I bumped it instead. 4 or 5 new pencils rolled out across the floor. Sally giggled as I gathered them up. JT handed me one of the pencils, and our fingers touched, and I could almost hear the wedding bells. Even though we were in homeroom, Miss Taylor couldn't help giving us a preview of what we were going to do in history that afternoon. She started going on and on about Arkansas and how we each pick a topic and give a presentation to the class. Pretty soon I stopped listening. Sally would ask me to be her partner, and I'd do all the work. That's how it always was. Besides, I was having too much fun imagining my life with JT. By lunchtime, I planned our honeymoon in Italy. I was trying to decide if we should name our first son Orbit or Cosine when someone slid into the chair beside me. I just about spit out my peanut butter and jelly sandwich when I realized it was JT. Hi, Marley, he said. I knew I should squeeze out a hi or maybe a hello or maybe even hello, JT. But of course he knew what his name was, and my mouth was full of peanut butter. Still, I promised Judy and tried to speak. So before I could talk myself out of it, I said, Hi, JT. I was pleased. I sounded so smooth and calm, at least until I reached for my milk to wash down the peanut butter and knocked over the carton instead. JT, always the gentleman, mopped up the mess. I was wondering if you'd be willing to help me with math this year, he said as he pushed a pile of soggy napkins around the table. I was too surprised to move. There was still a big blob of peanut butter stuck to the roof of my mouth. If I'd said something, JT would be totally grossed out. Mr. Harding is a hard teacher, JT went on. I'm sure to fail if I don't find a tutor, and I don't want to have to repeat the 7th grade like my brother did. I'm not so good at math, and you're so great at it. So what do you say? Do you want to help me? I swallowed. This was my chance. I do. He grinned, pulled out his math book, and handed it to me. The first assignment is on page 12, numbers 1 through 21. I knew that. We were in the same math class. Still, I didn't mind being the brains in the family. Let's meet up before school tomorrow, and you can explain it to me, he suggested. Say at the picnic table by the football field? I nodded. He patted me on the shoulder. Thanks, Marley, he said. You're a real sweet girl. Then he walked off to join his friends at their regular table. I was on cloud 9. I had a date, a real date with JT. We'd had a whole conversation. He liked me. He just wants you to do the work for him, Sally said, sitting down at our table. I shrugged. I was happy, and I wasn't going to let Sally take that away from me. Maybe, said Liz as she put down her tray, but he sure is cute. I didn't hear the rest of the conversation after that. I was too busy thinking about Cosine and his little sister, Isosceles. The next morning, I had Daddy drop me off at school extra early. I had pencils, paper, both our math books, and my homework. JT could use it as an answer key if he got stuck. He wasn't at school when I arrived. I sat down on the top of the picnic table to wait. I waited a long time. Cosine and Isosceles were in college by the time JT's brother, Red, finally pulled up in the curb. JT might be a cup of hot chocolate with whipped cream and sprinkles on top, but his brother was castor oil. What Red was 17, a year older than Judy. He had blonde hair and blue eyes like his little brother, and his features were so regular they looked like they had been laid out with a ruler. If you ask me, it's people's imperfections that give them character, a nose slightly off-center, or a dimple or one ear slightly higher than the other. There was something creepy about Red's perfectly symmetrical face. Or maybe it wasn't about his face at all. Once, when we were all little kids playing in an old quarry near our house, Red had called me over to see a butterfly he'd caught. It was beautiful, black and orange, and fluttered like a tiny pulsing heart in his hand. Then suddenly, he tore off his wings with his fingertips and laughed when I started to cry. "You got that mute girl tutoring you?" asked Red loudly as he pulled up to the curb. I knew he wanted me to hear. JT shrugged. "She's pretty and good at math. What else do I need?" He opened the door and got out. Red sped off, almost hitting one of the colored women who worked in the cafeteria and was trying to cross the street. He leaned on the horn and she hurried out of his way. I wanted to say something to her as she walked toward the side of the school door. "Are you all right? Isn't he a jerk?" Or maybe even just hello. But before I could get up the nerve, she was inside the building and the moment was gone. "Hi, Marley." JT sat down next to me on the picnic bench. I smiled at him. "So," said JT. "So, I guess I have to say something." My excitement over planning JT and Marley love story, I'd forgotten that tutoring him would involve actually speaking. "You ready?" he asked. I opened my math book and my homework fell out. The first bell rang. Great, we only have 5 minutes to get to class. There's 21 problems. We'd never finish in time. But JT's grin was as white as ever. "You're a sweetheart." Before I could swoon over his words of endearment, JT picked up my homework and put it into his book. He winked and slammed the book shut. "Thanks, Marley. See you the same place tomorrow?" "Okay." He strode off without waiting for an answer. All yesterday, I imagined the scene. JT and I would have so much fun working together. He'd say he wanted to spend more time with me. We'd do fractions at the Double Scoop ice cream parlor and long division at Crystal Burger. I wanted to believe the best of him. Maybe he had another flat tire. Maybe his alarm clock hadn't gone off. Even though the truth was staring me in the face, I couldn't help thinking that maybe tomorrow he'd be on time.